Hi everyone. Last week on Orientation Day, I tried to give you a little background about our class and our expectations, and I'll go over that again in person. We're starting our studies on algebra, and most of you have some background already on this, but I gave you some key comments here about the foundations of algebra. It all starts with these quantities, and these numbers that we're going to use them to form expressions, equations, and inequalities. Now, an expression is a quantity that doesn't make a statement, not a complete thought. An equation or inequality is a statement about these quantities. They're either equal or less than or greater than or equal to, and so on. We use variables in place of numbers in equations and inequalities, and this allows the statement of the relationships among numbers that are unknown, which helps with solving word problems. Algebra uses symbols to represent quantities that are unknown or that can vary. And mathematical phrases and real-world relationships can be represented using these symbols and operations. So here, sometimes students will say, well, when will I ever use algebra? Well, in your everyday life, we're looking at unknowns that we're trying to work with and calculate, and that's where we put in our variables and our operations to help us solve everyday problems. So we start off each year with a familiar topic. We just start with our expressions. As I mentioned last week, I'm going to have a lesson. We'll talk about our goal or objective for that lesson, and we'll talk through and do some problems, and it'll end with some independent practice. So the language of math starts with expressions. And these expressions could be all words, 4 plus 3, written out in words. Could be written out in the numeric expression or numerical expression, 4 plus 3. And then we could change this to algebraic by replacing one of these numbers with a variable. So these are our three types of expressions that we'll deal with. In some cases, we'll be translating them. In other cases, we'll be simplifying using order of operations. And in the third type, we will be evaluating. So here exactly is what I just said as I ended the last slide. We may be evaluating expression, which means if they're algebraic, we'll take those variables and substitute in given values and then simplify. What does simplify mean? Perform all the operations. I just say do the math. Perform all the operations till there's nothing left for you to do. And then we're all familiar with order of operations and our left to right rule. These are the three things that we're going to be involving ourselves with when we start off our studies of algebraic expressions. I mentioned the word translations. I'm asking you now to set up a 2x2 table in your notebook, and under each category or operation, add, subtract, multiply, and divide, come up with as many words or phrases that help you think about that particular operation to perform. So think of words that make reference to adding or to subtracting, multiplying, dividing. Take some time out and let's do that now. Now that we have, and we'll go over that list in class today, now that we have that list, let's put it to practice. Let's do some translations. I'm giving you some verbal expressions. Once again, stop and write these examples or these verbal expressions in your notes, and next to it, put your translation. For example, the product of a number and 5, well, product means multiply, I could just have 5x. And again, if it doesn't state the variable to use, you choose the variable. I got you started on the first one. Go ahead and work on the next grouping. And I'll just scroll for you to see the rest. You can pause the video as you're doing this. And there's the rest. Once again, because we do have a in-person class today, we'll be going over these together. On a day when it's just a Zoom lesson or just a video, I will either be asking for your help in a Zoom class, or I will provide the answers for you to check. In lesson 1-2, we're going to go a little deeper into that order of operations and evaluating of expressions. And our two objectives here are to simplify, especially expressions involving exponents. And we're going to use that order of operations to simplify as well as to evaluate expressions. So let's do a little practice. Let's simplify each of these numerical expressions. Again, keeping in mind order of operations, and one of our goals was to work with expressions with exponents, and here are some to start us off with. Once again, you can pause the video and copy the expressions, and then take a few minutes to go ahead and simplify. As you're working, I'll just scroll just a little bit more for you to see the last couple problems. And again, think of your order of operations and your left to right rule. We will go over these in person during our session today. And the last thing I want to talk about in this introductory class is evaluating algebraic expressions, which simply tells us to substitute or replace the variable for given values. If there could be one variable, there could be two variables. It all depends on the situation. Simplify and then perform all the operations. Once again, pause and try these couple right here. I will be doing these step by step in class with your assistance. Remember, participation is very important in this class. Here's one more. And again, replace those x's and y's with 3 and 2, and then simplify. Showing your work is important. Doing it step by step. There'll be times when I'll do exercises called error analysis, where I'll give you a problem that has one or more errors in it, and I ask you to find it and then correct the problem and discuss what may have gone wrong with the problem. And now it's time for you to do that independent practice. I wanted to remind you that each day our class meets, which is the first 4 days of the week, Monday through Thursday, we don't have class on Fridays, you're going to find on your modules on Canvas a video lesson as well as an assignment. The assignment should be completed and submitted by the due date to receive full credit. If there's any problems or something's not clear, I haven't set up those office hours yet, but until I do, feel free to contact me by email, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. So until our live session, have a great day, and I'll see you then. Thanks.